Hi, I'm Alexa. I'm an occupational therapist. I understand that you are the teacher of the student.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to explain to you how to do a school function assessment. The SFA is designed to help identify a student's strengths and limitations performing school-related activities. This information will help the student's team identify areas where intervention is needed. The SFA has 3 parts, and you will be using this booklet to guide your rating scale. The first part is participation in school activity settings. These settings can be regular or special education, playground, transportation, bathroom, transitions, and mealtime. The second is task supports. These can be assistance from adults and adaptations to the environment. The third is activity performance, such as moving around the school, using school materials, following rules, and interacting with peers. It is really important to note that the rating scale changes for each set. For participation, it begins with 1 being extremely limited to ending with 6 full participation. Task supports begins with 1 extensive assistance and extensive adaptations to 4 being no assistance and no adaptations. Third is activity performance. This begins with 1 does not perform and 4 consistent performance. It is important to keep this booklet in front of you while you're filling out the record form. It's also important to note to not leave any items blank and fill out every item. The first section of the record form contains space to record identifying information about the student, the names of the respondents, and their relationship to the student. The bottom section of the record form provides space to record additional descriptive information. This information is useful, however, in obtaining a comprehensive picture of the student's educational program, his or her identified disabling conditions, his or her means of mobility, communication, and transportation, and features of the school environment. Next, the school professional will refer to the rating scale guide to determine the rating that best describes the student's current level of participation for each setting. They will begin in part 1, which is participation. Next, they will move to task supports, and they will finish with activity performance. The scorer will begin by making sure that the raw score totals provided by the respondents for each part of the instrument are accurate. Then they will transfer the raw score for each scale column to the column labeled Total Raw Score on the summary score form. Next, they will convert each raw score total to a criterion score using the appropriate table in Appendix B, as she is demonstrating. Then they will obtain the standard error value for each criterion score. The standard error value is provided next to the criterion score in each table. Record this value for each scale in the column labeled Standard Error. Now she will complete the functional profile. These can be found on page 3 of the record form. She will copy the corresponding rates into the box below. Next, she will use the student's criterion score for each scale on the profile graph. Then connect each point to create the graphic representation of the student's pattern of functional performance. Criterion scores are on a scale of 0 to 100, 0 being little to no function in that area, 100 being complete participation in that area. As you can see on the graphic representation of the student's pattern of functional performance, some of his higher criterion scores represent his stronger areas. These include transitions, memory and understanding, and positive interactions. His lower criterion scores represent his problem areas. These are physical tasks and adaptations, recreational movement, and clothing management. When interpreting results of the SFA, it's important to remember that the scores represent the result of an interaction between the student and his or her present school context. Always interpret a student's scores relative to the school context and the student's experience. The SFA results may be interpreted in two ways, on a basic level or at an advanced level. Basic level interpretation can be used to answer questions regarding whether the student's function in a particular area is outside the range typically seen among his or her in the same grade regular education peers. The advanced interpretation involves examining the ratings of individual items and the criterion scores to identify and interpret patterns of functional performance. To obtain this in-depth understanding, a user must apply his or her educational and/or clinical expertise to interpret the results.
Using our results from the assessment and our clinical reasoning, we recorded the adaptations that the student is able to use to perform functional activities during the school day. Some examples we gave are modified clothing materials, special cup and dressing aids. We set aside personal space and hallway modifications, specialized routines/responsibilities, adapted work surfaces, adapted scissors, manipulative materials, and additional repetition or practice.